What is good? I go by Osiris. I have a channel called Stuck in the Middle, and I'm such a big Tim Pool fan. I was using a lot of clips from his show, and I was like, let's just call another channel, do a new channel, call it Tim Pool After Show. And I'm still figuring out what I'm going to do, but everything on this channel is probably going to be based off of thoughts from that show. This is episode 518. Jack Posovic was on. Cheryl Atkinson was on. Her voice was sore. She is so great. If you don't know her, she wasn't able to talk as much probably because her voice was sore, but she is wonderful. But I'm going to take a couple clips from Jack here on this ministry of truth. And the right or the non-left is getting better at branding things. You know how the left branded the bill in Florida, the Don't Say Gay bill? They're doing a good job of rebranding this. And it's not just a joke. I think it's a fair comparison. They're rebranding this thing as the Ministry of Truth from the novel 1984, when everything was the opposite. The Ministry of Peace was really for war. The Ministry of Truth is really for deception. I'm going to play a clip to say what's going on, then my take from it, and what the government. So say you could have Nina Jankowicz sit down with you, like right now. Say you could sit down with her right now and ask her, well, what's really, like off the record, what's really going on? I'm going to talk about what I think is really going on if you were able to sit down with her, Nina Jankowicz. Let's start off. Jack was ready to go right off the bat. You could see it. Listen to how fired up he was.
We got Jack Posobiec hanging out.
The number one trend in the United States of America now is the Ministry of Truth. Because earlier today, nobody was talking about this DHS Disinformation Governance Board until I happen to be on Twitter. Someone sends me this thing that it's Nina Jankowicz who's in charge of this thing. Nina Jankowicz, you may know her from previously calling and saying that Trump supporters were planning to show up at the polls on Election Day militarized and with weapons to intimidate people.
This is the person, if you don't know already, this is the person that's going to be the head of this new department of disinformation. She's going to be the executive director of the Disinformation Governance Board. That's who he's talking about right here. So I want to make sure that context is clear.
From going to the polls. That's her October 2020 on CNN saying that previously she was a member of a Harry Potter fan band known as the Moaning Myrtles. Which
I'm going to put in a clip of the reference here from Jack Posovic. I don't know why it would be a YouTube unfriendly lyric, but these are the lyrics I believe he's talking about coming up here shortly. This was not on the show, just to be clear.
Who had lyrics,
That's a scandal.
Who had lyrics that I don't think I can say on YouTube about, obviously underage boys.
Went looking for some prefects in the bathroom one day, but instead I found Harry, and so I said, hey, I helped him solve the mystery of the A, and I'd like to solve the mystery between his legs. I hope that Harry drowns tomorrow in the lake, so that our honeymoon we can take. Know that ghosts have working anatomy, but what's better than that? We don't get STDs. Death is
Yes, I'm serious.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, I'm serious. And no one was talking about this other than the fact that she very obviously leaked the news to Politico and then was, crowing about this. And for some reason, Politico didn't even think to do a story on the Ministry of Truth that was being enacted by the Biden administration.
It was in the playbook of the day. So some people were seeing the link to the Political article. They didn't even go deep enough to see that they had just mentioned it as a side note. Something this big, this controversial is blowing up all over the place. Not even an article. Political released it as a side note.
So it was up to little old me to have to go tweet this out and all the receipts of Nina Jankowicz, who she is, what they're doing. Because Tim and everybody else here, I got to say this, and Cheryl, it's amazing. I do hope you feel better, but I'm really honored to be on with you tonight. That She is one of the people who immediately, when she saw the Hunter Biden laptop story, said that it was Russian disinformation. She said it was a fairy tale that he could have left his laptop in this Delaware tech shop because, I've never heard of a crackhead losing something before. This is the person who's now in charge of your Ministry of Truth.
Wow. Speaking of that,
So here's what I want to do before I get to the next part of this. I want to go to a tweet, and that's all damning. And I would like to say to Jack, I was digging in, just searching, Google search. Well, I'm on DuckDuckGo searching, and this was more troubling to me. This right here, I'm going to share my screen, was more troubling than even all of that stuff you just saw. I just did a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search on her, and she was talking about misinformation. This is an interview, and I believe it was in the Irish Tech News from, I think it was July 2020. They asked her, Nina Jankovic, your top tips for winning rather than losing the information war. So she's answering that question from the standpoint of just a normal person. So I'm thinking, really, the question is, how do you think critically through all this information? Her answer is very telling and more damning to me than anything. She said the most important thing to recognize is that disinformation runs on emotion. So if you're feeling yourself getting emotional, there's a good chance you're being manipulated. We need to stop right there. That makes no goddamn sense. So yes, that is true that disinformation often runs on emotion. But then she said, so if you're feeling emotional, so she's basically saying, so if you're feeling disinformation runs on emotion, true. So if you're feeling emotional, then it's a good chance that it's disinformation. False. So the laptop story, the laptop from hell. Some people might have gotten emotional about it. That doesn't mean it's disinformation. Maybe you caught your spouse cheating or something to that effect. You be emotional about it, but that doesn't mean it's true or not true. And then she said, walk away. I agree. If you're emotional, period, walk away. But this message isn't empowering. It's not saying walk away and then come back with a clear head, and then you need to take the emotion out of it and analyze whether it's true or not. That is the empowering message. It is common sense to me, but obviously not to everyone. But what she says is take some time away and then check your source. Oh, do some more research and check your source. Well, let's use the cheating spouse hypothetically, and maybe it's your enemy that is the one that told you, hey, I'm cheating with your spouse. Wait, I want to know if it's true or not. The source I might not like. The source I might not respect. The source might be the Russian Times or Russia Today, RT, whatever they're called. The source could be Fox News, and you don't like Fox News. My source could be CNN. It doesn't matter what the source is. I need to analyze the content. The reason why she said analyze the source is she wants to funnel you. We control the sources. So if you're watching the YouTube video, they say, oh, it's just a dude like me in my basement. Don't listen to him. Okay, that's fine. But the information I provide might be true, might not be. That's not critical thinking. So that's way more concerning to me than anything that has been said so far. If you were to sit down with Nina Jankovic and off the record where she knew it would not get out, would never get out, we knew for 100% fact it would be a secret meeting. I think what she would say is, I hear where you're coming from, but the government, in order to protect you, we need to be able to run disinformation campaigns. And if we don't control what disinformation is, we can't run these campaigns. That came up on the same show. Here's how it sounded. It was a great conversation as usual.
this is amazing, Life magazine from March 1944, which is, I think it's 44, but it's a magazine from 2 months 3 months before D-Day. In the magazine, they show all of the American military power in the UK. It's fascinating. They said the United States is helping the UK in the event Germany may try to invade. Only what was actually happening was the US was preparing to storm the beaches of Normandy, stage D-Day. But they could not say that in the press. So in this magazine at the time, they're like, we're here with our military to protect Britain.
Fake news.
Fake news, literally. And I don't know the details of that. That's the first I've heard of that magazine. So it could have been the government controlling with private, industries, fascism, basically, or it could have just been the government giving wrong information on purpose. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, and it worked out. This is the argument for this disinformation governance board. After I talk about this, I'm going to tell you why that's not going to fly, but I just want to make sure it's clear. This is the argument for it.
So
It was fake news.
So I mean, this is actually something I studied when I was in the IC. I went through classes.
And just to be clear, I'm assuming everybody knows these people. I shouldn't. They are not for the disinformation board, government's board. But the discussion came to a point where I interpret this as this would be the government's argument in favor of it if they could speak freely.
On this, they call it denial and deception operations. So Germany knew that there was an invasion coming and it was going to be the Americans. The question was, where would the invasion come from? And they conducted so many deception operations because they knew that the Germans had spies throughout Europe. So what did they do? They knew that they sent Patton to Europe because they knew Patton. They sent him to the UK because they knew that the Germans would be watching him. But where do they send him? They don't send him across from Normandy. They send him to Dover. Now, Dover is directly across from Calais. This is the shortest point on the English Channel. This is actually where the Channel Tunnel is because it's the shortest point. Normandy is where the invasion actually was. It's not where you'd expect. They send Patton over to Dover. What do? They get soldiers and they make fake uniform patches for them depicting fake units. They have these soldiers go into town and pretend that there's a massive buildup. They start renting hotel rooms. They start buying food. They start sending messages. They're going all throughout town, and they act as if they're all members of various units that are there in the town, and yet none of it's real. So the German high command is getting all these reports back saying, hey, there's a ton of stuff going on in Calais, right across from Calais, from this place called Dover. We think it's coming. What did the Germans do? They realize that they can't put all their eggs in one basket. They split the forces along the North Atlantic Wall from Normandy and Calais. The deception, and there's way more to it than this. There's so much to get into. They used a dead body at one point, and they put like fake documents. The British did this.
Right.
They put fake documents in the body, drop him off of the Rock of Gibraltar. He washes up on Spain. The Spanish find the guy. They hand him to the German embassy. They say, look, we've got these documents. See, we know all about this invasion. It's coming. And then that makes its way up. Hitler splits the forces. The deception operation was so extensive that even after D-Day, they kept the forces split because they still thought another invasion was going to be coming. They thought Normandy was a feint. They thought that was the decoy, and an even bigger one was still coming.
Wow.
So that's the case. That's the case for we've got to control the information. And I'm going to end with this. I don't trust y'all like that. Trust is earned. And we're in a new world, a new era. And if I have my way, the power will stay with the people. I consider myself a populist. What I mean by that is if there is a question of who should have power, and then that's what this is, that's what this disinformation stuff is. The Disinformation Governance Board is a statement saying the government should have control over what defines disinformation. And I say, to hell with that. The people should. And I don't trust y'all with that. What you've done with disinformation brought us Russiagate, questions about 2020 at the end of that. I can't even talk about it openly on YouTube. And you want me to trust you with defining disinformation? And I know at the end of the day, you don't care if I trust you or not. And I don't care either. Back to you. So no, I'm not for it. We're in a new era where you won't be able to do what they did when they stormed the beaches of Normandy and completely fooled the enemy. Those days are over. We're in a new era. The internet's out there. People will be able to see where the troops are moving and all that stuff. It's going to be very hard to hide that stuff. Don't come to me thinking that that's going to be the justification. Black Lives Matter, nonsense. J6 overplayed, called insurrection and it wasn't anything close to an insurrection. This is gaslighting us every single day, from the pandemic to Russiagate to pandemic to Ukraine. We don't trust each other like that, and those days are over. So I'm going to be with the people. I love our country. Our government needs to be put in check. So I'm not going to say I hate our government. I'm not even anti-establishment. As long as you don't tread on me. As long as you don't tread on me, we're good. If you decide to tread on me, then the people have to do that through the process peacefully. You need to vote your ass out of office. Let me know what you think.